What's going on? It's Suk and I'm back with a brand new video on SuperDuprTech, and in today's video I shall be showing you the results that I got when benchmarking the 2020 entry 24-inch iMac. We are on the road to 5,000 subscribers, and if you are new around here, then I must ask you to hit the subscribe button, clicking the bell icon to be notified of when I upload a new video. Without any further ado, let's hit the titles. The first benchmarking application which I ran on this iMac was GeekBench 4. Now this was run through Rosetta as it's not natively available on macOS. GeekBench is a good general benchmark as it runs a number of different tests and algorithms, and depending on how it's performed and how long it took to perform them, it will then give a score accordingly. So with this iMac, I got a single core score of 5,790 and a multi-core score of 23,269. I also performed GeekBench 4's graphics test using the GPU found in this M1 chip. It is worth noting that with this particular iMac, it has 7 graphics cores as opposed to other models which may come with 8. The first test I ran was an Opengl test and I got scores of 72,399, and when running the metal test I got scores of 65,522. And just like with the CPU tests, these tests were run once again through Rosetta. The next testing application that I ran was once again from GeekBench, this time their newer set of tests found in GeekBench 5, which has an increased amount of tests which are designed to further tax the machine when compared to GeekBench 4. Once again, GeekBench 5 scores are based on performance and the time taken to perform them. So when testing the CPU through Rosetta, I got a single core score of 1,336 and I also got a multi-core score of 5,965. Again, I tested how the M1's graphics would perform here, and once again this was tested through Rosetta. So using the Opengl and metal tests, when running the Opengl test I got a score of 15,919, and when I ran it using the metal test I got a score of 18,451. There is also a native version of GeekBench 5 that does support Apple Silicon, so you know what I did next? I tested that. I then ran the same set of tests natively on the iMac, and when testing the CPU portion of the M1, I got a single core score of 1,734, and when testing the multi-core performance, I got scores of 7,688, which is impressive considering the price point of the machine. Again, I tested how the M1's graphics performed being ran on a native application using GeekBench 5's Opengl and metal compute tests. When running the Opengl test, I got scores of 17,820, and when I tested using metal, I got scores of 19,830. The next benchmarking application which I ran on this iMac was Gfx Bench Metal, which is once again designed to test how well the performance of those 7 graphics cores are when running graphics through metal. Now Gfx Bench runs a number of different tests in both higher and lower levels of intensity, and for the interest of saving time I have calculated the average for each of these results, but I will show you each individual result in a few seconds. So for the higher intensive graphics tasks, I got an average frame rate of 139.69 frames per second, and whereas for the lower level intensive tasks, I got a score of 116.01 frames per second. The next test that I ran was an Ssd Speed Test. Now this was ran once again through Rosetta, although testing the SSD shouldn't make any difference in the results that we see. So after running this test multiple times, the fastest score that I got was an SSD read speed of 2601 megabytes per second and a write speed of 1960 megabytes per second. I then ran NovaBench. Now NovaBench is a good general benchmark as it tests not only the CPU and GPU but also the storage and the system memory. It was also ran through Rosetta, so keep that in mind. So the score that I got for this test was 2189, which wasn't too bad all things considered. Next I ran a network speed test and consistently got a download speed above 208 megabits per second and an upload speed of around 20.6 megabits per second. Next I ran CineBench R23. Now CineBench is a good benchmarking program as it tests each individual thread and then gives a score based on its performance and time taken, similarly to how GeekBench performs its tests. But it runs tests for both single and multi-core performance and then it works out the ratio between them. The higher the ratio, the better the performing CPU. So for CineBench, I got a single core score of 1493 and I also got a multi-core score of 7129, which does give us a ratio of 4.78. Then I exported video footage to H.264 at both 4K and Full HD resolutions using Final Cut Pro with background rendering turned off. Now the time taken to export the Full HD project was around 50 seconds, whereas it did take a little longer to export the 4K project, with it taking 4 minutes and 43 seconds to complete. The last series of tests that I performed came from Unigine, which are not optimized for Apple Silicon and thus was ran through Rosetta. The first of these was their Heaven benchmarking test, which is a heavy CPU and GPU test, which will then give a general score on its performance and then an average frame rate for when rendering out a particular scene. So for Unigine Heaven, I got an average frame rate of around 38.9 frames per second and a score of 980. Once again from Unigine benchmarking tools, the final test that I ran was their Valley test, which performs a similar set of tests to what we've seen previously in the Heaven benchmark. So for Unigine Valley, I got an average frame rate of 45.3 frames per second and I got a score of 1895, which once again isn't too bad all things considered. So there you have it. Take from this video what you must, but it's quite good to see machines with this display, design, power efficiency and performance for this price. So if you'd like to run the tests that you've seen in this video and compare them to your own machines, then go ahead and do so and let me know how your machines stack up to this iMac. If you have got any questions with anything you've seen in this video, then be sure to let me know by commenting down below or by hitting me up on my social media, links to which can be found down below in the video description. If you are new around here, then do please take a moment to subscribe, clicking the bell icon to be notified of when a new video goes live. Once again, thank you very much for watching, take care and have a good one.